She laughed at the human's warning, but 10 minutes later, her skin was burning, her heartbeat collapsing, and something ancient beneath the desert had awakened inside her. Now, stranded on a hostile world with death closing in, the only person who can save her is the same human she refused to listen to. Jackson Reeves had survived orbital burnouts, plasma storms, and a pirate ambush that wiped out half his squadron. Yet nothing tested his sanity quite like escorting Lyra Vexery across the outer belt. She stood behind him in the cockpit, arms folded, silver hair catching the amber glow of the control screens, as if the universe spotlighted her attitude on purpose. "This ship smells human," she muttered, scrunching her nose like the atmosphere itself offended her DNA. Jackson didn't bother looking up. "That's because humans fly it. Wild concept, I know." Her eyes narrowed. "You're being sarcastic again." "Me? Never," he said, adjusting the descent trajectory as turbulence rattled the hull. "Just sit down and don't touch anything." Lyra rolled her eyes, the kind of slow, dramatic arc that suggested she practiced it for diplomacy training. "Relax, Commander. I've handled more advanced tech than this flying brick." He finally turned toward her, jaw tightening. "Yeah? Then maybe your advanced tech can fix the engine overheating warning that started after you pressed random buttons during takeoff." "That was not random," she shot back. "I was exploring. On my ship," he reminded her. "While we were leaving orbit. During a launch sequence." She opened her mouth to argue, but the ship jolted violently, cutting her off. A sharp alarm pierced the cockpit, red lights strobing across their faces. Jackson cursed under his breath and gripped the controls. "Stabilizer coil just blew," he said, voice shifting from sarcastic to razor-sharp focus. "Hold on." Lyra lurched against the co-pilot seat as the vessel dropped hard, the desert planet beneath them spinning into view like a swirling furnace of sand and fractured rock. "Is it supposed to do that?" she asked, gripping the armrest. "No," Jackson snapped. "And this is why I told you, multiple times, not to override the safety dampeners. I was only trying to improve the efficiency. You improved us straight into a death spiral." The ship slammed through the lower atmosphere, a sheet of fire streaking across the nose. Heat alarms screamed. Wind shear punched the hull. Lyra's arrogance faltered into genuine fear as she clung to her harness. Jackson grit his teeth. "Just stay strapped in. I'll get us down." Outside, the planet stretched endlessly. Crimson dunes, jagged spires, and a storm building on the horizon like a living wall. Lyra swallowed hard. For the first time since boarding his ship, she stayed quiet. And for the first time since meeting her, Jackson wished she had listened. The world was still spinning when the wreck finally groaned to a halt, half buried in crimson sand. Jackson ripped off his harness, lungs burning from the smoke that seeped through the vents. Metal pinged as the hull cooled, every sound reminding him how close they'd come to becoming a crater. "Are we alive?" Lyra asked, her voice shaky but trying to sound unbothered. "Annoyingly so," he muttered, checking the systems. Power flickered. Life support held. Communication completely fried. He braced a hand on the console and turned toward her. "You okay?" Lyra brushed her hair back with trembling fingers. "I've been through turbulence before." "That wasn't turbulence," Jackson said. "That was a controlled crash." She attempted a smirk but failed. Her hands trembled too much. He noticed, even if she tried to pretend otherwise. "Stay inside," he instructed, pulling on his reinforced suit. "Air outside's not fully compatible with your physiology." Lyra scoffed. "I can handle a little sand. My species is more resilient than you think." "Lyra, I'm serious." But she had already keyed the hatch and stepped onto the sand, lifting her chin as if daring the planet to challenge her. Sunlight washed over her orange-tinted skin, making the silver streaks in her hair gleam. She breathed in deeply, almost defiantly. Jackson clenched his fists. "Unbelievable," he muttered, storming after her. "You just love ignoring every—" His voice cut off. Lyra was standing still, too still. A faint shudder passed through her limbs. Her pupils dilated unnaturally. A thin thread of blue shimmer, like static, crawled up her arms. "Lyra?" he called, moving faster. She blinked slowly. "I feel lightheaded. Get back inside. Now." She tried to take a step, but her legs buckled. Jackson lunged, catching her just before she hit the sand. Heat radiated from her skin. Far too much. Her breath came shallow, uneven. "I told you the atmosphere could trigger a reaction," he snapped, lifting her into his arms. Her fingers curled weakly around his suit. "It was just air," she whispered, confused, almost scared. "Just air." He felt the panic rising in his chest. Something unfamiliar, unwelcome. "It's not just air for you," Jackson said, carrying her inside. "This planet reacts chemically with non-human biology." Lyra's eyes fluttered. "You didn't say it would hurt." "I didn't think you'd ignore me," he answered, voice cracking as alarms lit up the medbay. The scanner displayed a warning he prayed he'd never see. "Cellular failure detected, Vexarian only." Lyra had minutes, maybe hours, but she was paying the price now, and he wasn't letting her face it alone. Jackson carried Lyra to the medbed like she weighed nothing, though his heart hammered hard enough to shake him. Her skin, normally warm with a soft golden undertone, had shifted to a pale, sickly amber. The blue shimmer crawling along her veins intensified, pulsing like something alive beneath her skin. He hated how fragile she suddenly looked. "Stay with me," he murmured, attaching a neural patch to her wrist. The scanner hummed, projecting a rotating model of her internal systems. Cellular decay, rapid, aggressive, and human stabilizers barely slowed it. Lyra exhaled through clenched teeth. "I'm fine." "You're not fine," Jackson snapped, but his voice softened immediately. "You don't have to pretend." That got a faint smirk out of her. Barely there, but real. "Pretending is a Vexarian specialty." "Well," he said, injecting a microdose of anti-shock serum, "maybe try a human specialty for once." "And what would that be?" she whispered. "Letting someone help you." The faint smirk faded as another wave of pain twisted her features. She gripped the side of the bed so hard the metal bent under her fingers. A reminder that her species wasn't weak, but the toxin crippling her definitely was stronger. The scanner released a sharp beep, shifting from red to a deep violet. Jackson froze. Violet meant unknown classification, something the ship's medical database had never seen. "No, no, no," he muttered, scrolling through the data. Lyra watched his expression change. "What does that color mean?" "Your body isn't just reacting to the toxin," Jackson said quietly. "It's adapting. Something is rewriting your cells." Her voice trembled for the first time. "That's not possible." "It is now." Lyra's breathing hitched. "My father told me stories, old myths, about worlds that awaken dormant genes. They were warnings, not history." Jackson set his jaw. "We're not betting your life on myths." He pulled up the planetary map, scanning for anything capable of synthesizing an antitoxin. A blinking marker appeared, an abandoned biotech outpost, 7 kilometers across brutal terrain. If she stayed here, she'd die. If he carried her through the desert, she might still die. But staying wasn't an option. Lyra's eyes fluttered. "What are you thinking?" He wrapped an arm under her knees and lifted her again. "That you're not dying today," he said. "Not on my watch." She let her head fall against his chest, exhaustion overtaking her. "You're extremely stubborn." He managed a tight smile. "Good, because stubborn people save lives." He stepped toward the hatch. "And I'm about to save yours." The desert wind hit Jackson like a furnace as the hatch slid open. Sand whipped across his visor, stinging even through reinforced plating. He didn't slow. Lyra's shallow breaths vibrated through his chest with every step he took across the crimson dunes. She felt lighter now, not because she weighed less, but because her body was losing strength at an alarming rate. "Talk to me," he said, adjusting his grip so her head rested against his shoulder. "Tell me something. Anything." Lyra managed a weak laugh. "You hate silence, don't you?" "I hate losing people." he corrected softly. The wind swallowed his confession, but Lyra heard it. Her fingers curled around the edge of his suit, a silent acknowledgement. A fragile, human moment between a man who carried guilt like armor and a woman who'd spent her life hiding behind pride. The outpost finally came into view, a jagged silhouette carved into a cliffside. Ancient, abandoned, half swallowed by sand. Jackson scanned the structure. Faint energy signatures pulsed beneath the surface. "Stay with me," he whispered as he approached the sealed entrance. The door, if it could be called that, was covered in glowing veins of the same blue shimmer crawling through Lyra's body. As Jackson stepped closer, the markings brightened like they recognized her presence, or sensed her condition. Then, without warning, the stone split open. A gust of cold, metallic air surged outward. Jackson instinctively shielded Lyra while the dust cleared, revealing a long corridor lit by pulsing veins in the walls. "Jackson?" Lyra breathed, sounding suddenly terrified. "This place, it's Vexarian." He frowned. "Your people built this?" "No, my ancestors did. Long before our modern history." Her voice trembled. "We thought these structures were myths." "Myths don't open by themselves," he muttered, stepping inside. The moment his boots hit the smooth floor, the walls shifted. Light rushed along the patterns, tracing shapes that matched the scanning displays from his ship. It was as if the ruin was reading them, reading her. Lyra winced, clutching his chest as another wave of heat coursed through her. Jackson tightened his hold. "Easy. I've got you." They entered a chamber where crystalline pods lined the walls, each containing dormant machinery. At the center stood a pedestal humming with energy. Lyra whispered, barely conscious, "Jackson, this place isn't a lab." "What is it?" he asked. Her eyes opened just enough for him to see the fear in them. "It's a trigger." Before he could ask more, the pedestal ignited, flooding the chamber with light, and Lyra screamed as the ruins awakened. Light erupted from the pedestal like a living storm, sweeping across the chamber in a blinding wave. Jackson dropped to one knee, shielding Lyra as the ground trembled beneath them. The crystalline pods cracked open, releasing currents of blue-white energy that spiraled toward her, as if she were the magnet pulling an entire forgotten civilization awake. Lyra's scream cut through him. She arched in his arms, every muscle locked in agony. "Lyra, look at me. Look at me." Jackson grabbed her face gently, trying to anchor her as the light tore through her cells. Her eyes flickered between their normal amber and a glowing electric blue. "It's rewriting me," she gasped, voice fractured. "I can feel it. Every part of me. Changing." Jackson's chest tightened. He'd seen battlefield morphine overdoses, shock seizures, bioweapon reactions, but nothing like this. Nothing so cruel or beautiful or terrifying. He pulled her closer. "Fight it. Don't let it take you." Lyra's hand rose weakly, curling into the fabric of his suit. "You don't understand. This was never poison. It was an override key. My ancestors built these structures to activate dormant genes. Ones my father spent his life trying to suppress." Jackson blinked, breath catching. "Your father knew?" "He feared what I'd become," she whispered. "And now I'm running out of time." The room flashed white. Lyra went completely still. "Lyra?" Jackson's voice cracked as he shook her gently. No response. Her breathing stopped. Panic slammed into him. "No. No. Hey, don't do this. Stay with me." He lowered her onto the pedestal, hands trembling as he tried CPR, then chest stabilizers. The ancient machinery responded, threads of shimmering light wrapping around them both. One word appeared in the air above the pedestal. "Synchronize." Jackson didn't hesitate. He placed both palms on the glowing surface. If this machine needed him, if she needed him, he'd give whatever it asked. The light engulfed him and surged into Lyra. Her body jolted violently. A gasp tore from her lips as air rushed back into her lungs. Her eyes opened, completely transformed. Electric blue, vibrant, alive. She stared at him, breath trembling. "You came back." He exhaled shakily, relief crashing through him. I told you, you're not dying on my watch. Lyra reached for his cheek, her hand steady now. Jackson, something awakened inside me. Something powerful. He held her hand, grounding her. Good. Then we face it together. For the first time since the crash, she smiled, small, exhausted, but real. The ruins quieted, the glow dimming as if satisfied. Lyra had survived the price she paid for ignoring him. But neither of them had any idea what that awakening had just begun as the dust settled and the ruins fell silent. One truth became impossible for Lyra to ignore. Sometimes the warnings we reject are the very things that save us. She had stepped into danger with pride, but she emerged with clarity, power, and someone willing to fight for her even when she didn't believe she deserved it. And for Jackson, the mission had changed forever. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about what they would become next, together.